Days Gone Remastered was of course announced. We got some good and bad news, but I know many people are like, we don't need a remaster, I want a sequel, and I agree, but things are of course way more complicated than that, so I want to kind of explain the situation and also talk about two possible scenarios for the future. One is positive and one will be kind of tragic, so lots to go over. Let's start with my review for Days Gone. 5 years ago I said that the game was better than expected, despite the shortcomings, and the shortcomings were mostly the technical difficulties that have of course since been improved. But yeah, we do have of course the announcement trailer, but also like the announcement trailer said, okay, it will have like increased draw distance and remastered for PS5 Pro and the regular PS5, but here we have Saisu basically putting the things next to each other, and yeah, the results so far are not that impressive. I don't really see a difference. Let me know if you see any in the comments down below. But if we, for example, go here, we see in the original he has blood on his shirt, and on the remaster he has not. So that seems to be the only difference that people are noticing. But worth noting is that that seems to be from an older version, because if you play the game right now, Deacon will also not have blood on the shirt. So if you already played the game, you will mostly be getting it for the new content. It really reminds me of the Last of Us Part 2 situation that also did not look much better on PS5, was already 60 FPS if you played the PS4 version on PS5, but did of course have like a new mode, and Days Gone Remastered has the Horde Assault, which seems kind of similar, and they will be increasing the horde size as well. I think 500 was the maximum in the base game, but now they should increase that. And the Horde Assault overall should be like a mode with increasingly difficult enemies. You kind of have to try and survive for as long as possible. And yeah, it should have its own progression, new trophies. I will totally be jumping in for that. And I think it's cool that they added that, because if it was just like a better looking version, I'm not sure if I would have gone back, but like some new content is actually exciting. But yeah, we also have some other news, because there is of course a $10 upgrade, but if you got the game through PS Plus, then yeah, you won't be able to get the remastered version for $10. They might change that. Sometimes they do. I think this was the case for Horizon as well. Like for a previous Sony game had this too, and I think they changed that afterwards. So far that's not the case. And the remaster has been doing pretty well so far. We once again got Kevin, who's by the way the creative and product lead on the Days Gone Remastered, sharing the screenshot where we see that it's number 8 in terms of pre-orders on the PlayStation Store, at least after the State of Play on February 18th, which is pretty big. Like Monster Hunter Wilds, of course, huge, Elden Ring, Shadows is here. For a remaster being there, that's good news so far, but we all know why the sequel did not really happen, why Sony did not greenlight it, and that was because people did not show up at the launch of the game. Don't complain if there's no sequel if you did not buy it at full price, said John Garvin, the writer on the game, who left, because that is what kind of happened. Sony rejected plans for Days Gone. Although the first game had been profitable, its development had been lengthy and critical reception was mixed, so a Days Gone 2 wasn't seen as a viable option. Most notably, the studio's two most senior creatives, the writer and director John Garvin and the game director Jeff Ross, announced their exit from the Oregon, US-based developer in December. So they are gone. Jeff Ross also said like Sony higher-ups like Herman Hulst, of course, by the time that they were pitching Days Gone 2, was in charge of the Sony first-party studios. He did not greenlight the first game, obviously, but yeah, he was looking at everything from the first game. Was like, no, we're not gonna do a sequel. Yeah, this was a poster, and we don't see like Deacon here. It really shows you, like Jeff Ross is implying, that yeah, they were never fans of Days Gone, so you won't hear about it at the PlayStation State of Play today or ever. Of course, that changed with the remaster, so we are seeing a bit more love, but what we know is that instead of like working on Days Gone 2, Sony Band went to work on an Uncharted game before asking to be removed from the project. So they were like, okay, we can do Days Gone 2 or we can do an Uncharted game. They already did an Uncharted game, Golden Abyss, on the Vita. They made that before Days Gone. But they were afraid that they would become another like a Naughty Dog type studio. That they would lose their own identity. And yeah, that's why they were like, okay, take us off this project. We would like to make our own IP instead. And that's what they then ended up working on. In 2022, we have this blog post, a new look for Band Studios' future and a look back at its past. And if we scroll all the way down again, we see this was what they shared about their next project. We are excited to share just a snippet of news on our current project. We're currently working on a new IP that includes multiplayer and builds upon the open world systems of Days Gone, but brings you a whole new world that we are extremely excited to craft for you. We cannot wait to reveal it to you when the time is right. Now though, 3 years later, we learned that Sony cancels 2 more PlayStation projects in a broader retreat. And the games at the Oregon-based Sony Band Studio and the Texas-based Bluepoint were both live service projects designed to draw recurring revenue from players. Now, they do say that Band and Bluepoint are highly accomplished teams who are valued members of the PlayStation Studios family, and we're working closely with each studio to determine what their next projects are. And yeah, with the cancellation also came some layoffs. Several designers contracted to work on an unannounced game have revealed that they were recently let go or laid off after February 14th. These workers were part of Band's level and system design teams. One designer stated Band made the decision to prematurely rescind all ongoing contracts except for a select few that will be hired full-time. So that they are hiring some of them full-time makes me hopeful for the future. But overall, I'm like, okay, so we're 6 years after Days Gone, and they're basically going to start a new project right now. And I really think that this Days Gone Remastered might be crucial, because this will be their first project since Days Gone that can now actually make money for their studio, which is going to be very important. So with the pre-orders already being good, it makes me a bit hopeful. If the launch is more successful than Sony anticipates, then that might mean, like, at this moment when they are prototyping and kind of getting ready to pitch their next project to Sony, they might be like, yo, look at the love that we had for Days Gone. It still, 6 years after launch, people are really, really excited about the franchise. They want to see something else in this world. Maybe, and look at the Days Gone Remastered that did better than you expected. Maybe that makes Sony rethink it and be like, okay, why don't you guys make a smaller Days Gone game? Again, the two most creative, like the writer. For me, Days Gone, one of the best parts about it was the story, Deacon's journey, the plot twist along the way, meeting the different characters, some of the really like high tension, more linear story missions that I loved. I am not sure if Sony Band is still able to do that if you have like basically the two people that were in charge of Days Gone gone. But what they could do is be like, okay, we created this world, we have this awesome horde mechanic. What if we make a different story in this world? Follow a character maybe from the Days Gone universe, or maybe completely new, but in the Days Gone world. I think that could be cool, and maybe make it a smaller title. We don't need it to be 30 hours or longer. Make it 10 hours. Make it like Mafia: The Old Country. Like, make it semi-open world. Like, maybe have it like an open map, but it's like a very linear game that you can get out maybe as a cross-gen title at the launch of the PS6. And then also a PS5 version. I think that would be the best case scenario for them, because it means we won't have to wait another... I mean, Days Gone was in development for a long time as well, like 7 years or something. So and this live service game they did was in development for 3 years. If they really start to go and make like another triple A $80 $70 game, we're gonna wait at least 5 years. So that's why I think let's just make a smaller game. Let's make a Miles Morales, an Uncharted Lost Legacy in the Days Gone world. I think that would be amazing. But also, Shuei Yoshida, who of course first was in charge of the PlayStation Studios, did an interview with many outlets, including Colin Moriarty at Sacred Symbols. And I want to listen to this part specifically because he was talking about what goes into the decision to close a studio. And when I heard this, I got kind of afraid for Sony Bend.
I think we always looked at the priority of project. We just do not look at one project success or failure. We also look at the future potential of the team, what they have accomplished, and the situation, the platform, the market situation. So we just didn't look at the numbers, but look at all the angles and see if we keep investment on this place is better than doing some other things.
Yeah. And with that in mind, I kind of look at Sony Bend and what they did over the years. Of course, Siphon Filter. They then worked on the PSP game Resistance Retribution, third person. I really liked it, but it was a spin-off. Uncharted Golden Abyss, of course, another spin-off to support the Vita. They also did the card game, I think, Fight for Fortune. And then, again, 7 years, Days Gone. And now we're 6 years later, and they are just starting on their next project. Sony has a ton of studios right now, and they're also investing in other teams that they maybe don't own, but that are also bringing AAA games to the PlayStation hardware. And so they really right now have to decide, are we going to spend another few $100 million in this studio for a new game that, if we are lucky, is going to do Days Gone numbers, but will likely do less. Like, Days Gone was really successful, but I'm not like, it's not a safe bet that these guys can do that again, or that with the gaming industry, the landscape has changed. In 2019, we're all dying for a new game. Right now, there are so many games coming out. Live service games are way bigger. Will people show up for a full-priced Bend game in a new setting, or in the Days Gone universe? Again, Remastered doing good so far, but is that going to be like, yeah, if they do an Uncharted Lost Legacy type Days Gone game, will people then also show up if it does not include Deacon, or will they continue Deacon? But again, the writer from that game, the very crucial part of that story, is not on board. So I think, so the positive sort of direction they can go in is them exploring that other game in the Days Gone universe. I again think that's the safest bet they can do, and they kind of need a win right now. But I can also see this other more tragic path where Sony looks at everything, they're like, this is gonna cost us quite a lot. It's gonna be a really big gamble. We can also put this money in a few like different teams that we don't own, and like a Stellar Blade or Rise of the Ronin, we can do that too, which will probably cost us less because we don't have to fund the whole project, etc., etc. And yeah, get more out of that because those will be multiple games. So I'm 50-50 on it. Like, I of course hope that Bend Studio can continue, because again, I love Days Gone. There are a ton of talented people there, and I would love a good reason to return to that world, like a new story. But I also would like them to do something else. I want them to get another shot, because I feel like they were robbed of the Days Gone sequel. Usually a sequel is a big improvement over the first game. They can take all the learnings. They're not gonna launch a technical mess anymore. Rumors were that their new game was on the Decima engine, so the Guerrilla Games engine. Like, that would have been easily like way prettier, way more stable, etc. So I hope they get to make another game. But I also, yeah, like from a devil's advocate position, can Sony be like, especially after what we heard Stu say, yeah, it's not a priority project. It's gonna take a lot. It's gonna be a huge gamble. We will likely have to wait a long time before we like. That's why Arcane Austin from Redfall was, for example, shuttered. Yeah, they did a lot of great stuff, but yeah, Redfall was not it. So Microsoft was like, okay, we can get those guys to make another game for 5 years that will hopefully be good, but we don't know. So goodbye to you. Let me know what you think, of course, in the comments down below. Subscribe for way more reactions to gaming news like this. And I will speak to you soon. Goodbye.